What is religion for? What would be your religion if you were to invent one? Is this question easier for you to answer if you consider this without the burden of your past hurts, or your fears of how religion or certainty could control or corrupt? Perhaps this is hard because we're afraid that others might judge our religious expression. Is it so precious, your spiritual self, that you're afraid to show it to anybody for fear that others won't understand? What would it look like if you didn't fear that others would judge or belittle or diminish it? Or worse yet, tell you that you've got it wrong? The expression of the spiritual self in community is a risky thing. I heard at a meeting recently, yeah, we're a religion of seekers, but what happens if you find something? What would your religion be? Would you pray? Would you worship in the woods? Maybe your hymn would be John Lennon's Imagine. How would you ask others to be with you? What would your rituals be? How would you welcome babies? And how would you memorialize the dead? How would you want to experience those things in your life that hold the greatest meaning for you? A connection to the divine, the holy, the cosmos, the spirit of love, the spirit of life. How do you connect with that which gives meaning? How we do this, that is our religion. This summer I took an interfaith leadership class, and as part of this I attended the Soto Zen Buddhist Center in Des Moines, and we meditated for 40 minutes in silence together. When we were done, I felt like I'd had a massage. Then I went to a Sikh Dharma meditation followed by a discussion that invited us to consider meditation a connection to the divine. Later, I heard a lecture from an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. He gave us a lesson, and in the lesson he told us meditation alone is not enough. Meditation is preparation for prayer in conversation with God. Then I went to a Christian service for anointing and healing. I felt the oil on my forehead as I was blessed, and the minister put her hands on my head, and I leaned into it as she prayed for my formation. I appreciated the intent. Then I went to Friday Islamic communal prayers, Juma prayers. We prostrated and knelt in prayer as we followed the leader. I felt humble in offering my prayers. And finally, not 4 hours after that, I was engaged in a Jewish Shabbat, Sabbath, as the Sabbath started on Friday night, celebrating the end of the work week with communal prayers and my first ever challah bread and wine communion. Jesus would be pleased. My spirit was alive with the complexity and creativity of human religious expression. I loved it all, and yet I claimed none of it as my own. But what got me thinking is, what is my religion? What can I claim as my own? Is ours just a picking and choosing of others' religions? I hope not. Choosing to be creedless, we Unitarian Universalists walk a difficult path, I think. What religion do you practice? We are constantly renewing and remaking ourselves in our religious experience. And as Anne Hillman put it in our reading, we look with uncertainty beyond the old choices for clear-cut answers. Clear-cut answers. I want to push on something that might feel tender to some of us this morning. Some of us choose to say that we believe in science. Honestly, I cringe when I hear I believe in science. Well, of course you do. Because it has illuminated so much of our understanding of the world. But how do we give science as the easiest answers to questions of belief? Is it our clear-cut answer for our old religious choices? What science offers us comes in the form of evidence, but science isn't religion. It's a means of discovery, and granted, it has given us much. It's illuminated the dark and scary corners of our fears. Historically, the evidence produced by our science has wisely challenged our beliefs that if we pray enough, sacrifice enough, believe enough, we won't suffer. Our loved ones won't age, we won't get sick, or we'll be saved. Many of us have felt betrayed by those beliefs, so for some, science offers a different certainty, and it seems for a while like a reasonable substitute. For a while, it did for me. Honestly, science is simply a method of collecting evidence and making conclusions. Microbes, not demons, cause disease. But disease causes suffering either way. Adherence to science as a replacement for religion falls short of the purpose of religion. We miss the point when we believe in science. What I think religion at its best asks is not that we believe what we believe to be true, but what we believe gives us meaning. What gives us meaning and purpose, and this is not the realm of science. An egregious example of this, I think, is James Watson, who along with Francis Crick and posthumously Rosalind Franklin won the Nobel Prize for deducing the structure of DNA. Watson, who was later working to determine the DNA sequence of the human genome, A, T, G, and C, if you remember your biology, said that when we know the order of the bases of DNA, we will know what it means to be human. I remember reading this. I was a young scientist myself working with DNA, and I thought, wow, really? Really? Does that mean when your 3-year-old can sing her ABCs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that she knows what it means to read Tolstoy or Shakespeare or Mary Oliver? It got me thinking about how unreasonable it is to ask science to make meaning and for religion to provide evidence. Don't get me wrong, there's a connection between science and religion. The more science reveals about our amazing universe, the more I find myself kneeling at this altar of nature. This nature of which I am a part. But that's another sermon. Some of us cling to science and the certainty of its method, but in truth, it's just a method that illuminates our understanding of how the world works, but not what it means. Meaning is fluid, and for each of us to decide, and it is in our religious community that we express this together. So where does that leave us? Ask a Unitarian Universalist what you believe, and you're likely to get a blank stare. Have you felt this way? Oh crap, don't ask me what we believe. Don't ask that. But we believe something. We often answer with what we don't believe, or what we think everyone else thinks we don't believe. We're not creedal, we're not dogmatic, we're not, and you make your own list. Must we define ourselves by what we are not? throw out the baby with the bathwater when we direct all of our religious attention on what is not true about our faith. I don't know why we're here. I don't. I do know a little about what it means to be human, though. I know it means we're inclined to be creative. So let us use this creativity to imagine our faith. It means together we make meaning. We help one another find and make meaning. We need not be alone with big questions or troubling events. Losing a loved one, for example, conjures up big questions. Grief forces us to address ultimacy. It was on a Sunday morning when I learned of my father-in-law's death. I held the phone in my hand as my husband told me the news, and I remember turning to the wall, pain gripping my heart, and the tears starting to fall. I didn't know what to tell my young daughters. I just wanted to be with my husband, but he was 200 miles away at the bedside of his father. Instead, I took my daughters and myself to church. While driving there, everything seemed lifeless and pointless. In my mind, I began recalling how this man had advocated for me when I was new to the family, how he had stood for me up for me with my mother-in-law as she struggled with her son's choice of a mate. You see, I was not Catholic. This was the man who gave me a drill for a wedding gift. I would never see him again. I would never hug him again. And I would never look into his twinkling eyes again. So I went to church where I could light a candle, share my grief, be heard and be held by my community, to be reminded and to express how this man had brought meaning to my life. We had communal grief. That's what it means to be human. Maybe it is expressed in our DNA, but for me in that moment, that's not what mattered. I needed religious expression that held meaning in that moment of ultimacy. Anne Hilleman writes, to a softer, more permeable aliveness, to which is every moment at the brink of death, for something new is being born in us if we let it. I needed a softer, more permeable aliveness to hold my grief so that I could go on, different, born into a new way of being, sad for a while, committed to offering the world and grateful for what he had given me. And I let it. I let my community hold my grief so that something new could be born in me. I now understand, and I can now hold the grief of others. And so it is from communal grief and communal joy and communal mission that something new and religious is born. Don't ask me what I believe. Ask me how my beliefs manifest in the world. What would it change if I believed something different than you believe? Our beliefs come from experience, and experience changes our beliefs. Why wouldn't our religious expression be different with each age, with each person? Your religious belief expressed illuminates the meaning and purpose of your life. That's what I think religion is all about. Can I share my personal theology today? This is my personal religious expression. It may be different than yours, and in this community, we work to be okay with that. Yes? Let me get the conversation then started. My theology is loud and clear. It tells me in an inner, urgent voice, what comes after death is none of your concern. It is none of your concern. Your concern is here and now. Quit looking at something else for something else. Everything is here. It's here. You're already here. Furthermore, don't be afraid of what's here. Awaken to your own potential. Awaken to your own agency. Your unique gifts, everyone's unique gifts, are shameful, almost sinful, if I can use the word, to waste. You are infused with the spirit of life. Now go do something good with that great gift. Get on with it. That's my theology. We struggle, we fear, we suffer loss, and when we're lucky, we love. And with our gifts, we can love so big that the world changes. We can change each other and the world to come. There's the meaning for me in our commitment to use our gifts to benefit ourselves, our sisters and brothers, and generations to come. There's no more powerful force in the world, people, than that of human cooperation. Join my theology with yours. Human cooperation occurs when self-interest fades. That's what I believe. We come together as a religious community, bringing our unique gifts to a wider world so that the community is better for our having been here. What do I believe? I believe the meaning is made when we share our collective grief, our collective joy, our collective mission. Anne Hillman concludes her poem. We stand in a new doorway, awaiting that which comes, daring to be human creatures, vulnerable to the beauty of existence, learning to love. Let me add that love is a love so big we can change the world. That's my renewed religion. Imagine if we weren't afraid to say, I'm a deeply religious person. I'm religious because I am spiritual in community. In my expression with the people I encounter, in my actions, in my thoughts, I consider what I hold meaningful. Imagine our lives growing deeper if we answered that we were religious because we are meaning makers. Religion allows us to be in the room with ultimacy, birth, death, ecstasy, and deep despair. This is what I think we can reimagine. This is how to be together in acknowledgement of these great truths. Our ultimate realities are the same, you and I. I am here for you, with you, in your pain. And your pain is lessened, and my understanding of love is enlarged. When you share in my joy, my religious ecstasy, at the great wonder that is our existence together, now my joy is doubled, acknowledged, widened, and enriched. Imagine if we were willing to get a little deeper into our Soul Matters groups, in our conversations, in our ways of being in the world, returning on Sunday morning or Wednesday night or from another time together, renewed to be the whole people we can be, spiritually alive and vibrant in our interactions in the world, together with the spark of the universe in our eyes and the stardust of our bodies animated in creative and marvelous ways. And we know it. That's religious expression. That's my religion, and I'm a deeply religious person. May it be so.